This is what the Nazis did in 1933. One of the first things they did in the spring of 1933 was to take over the state governments and the policing functions of the state governments like Bavaria, Prussia, and so on and so forth. And if on January 6, 2021, Donald Trump had the kind of control of policing in the District of Columbia that he seeks to have in this city and others, how do you think that would have went?
It would not have. He would have
called in the National Guard.
But for folks at home, if you remember, people, it's easy for us to forget because between COVID, January 6th, so many things have happened since then. But on January 6th, history will record, and if you talk to anybody who knows, it was the Metropolitan Police Department. It was D.C.'s MPD that if they were not there, the Capitol would have been overrun.
That's right.
They would have found Nancy Pelosi and Mike Pence. It was the MPD officers who did their duty and held the line until the National Guard could arrive after the president relented. Can't believe he had to be relented and call them in.
Hours later.
So I do think that that's a really important point. And we aren't going to have to wait, I don't think, until the next election, the next presidential election, to see how Donald Trump is trying to wield that control. He's doing it here now. And I talked to a number of mayors today, and I know Eugene was talking to mayors too. And what the mayors that I spoke to told me, these were mayors who are members of the African American Mayors Association, they said, you know, look at the cities. People keep saying, well, Donald Trump is only targeting Democratic mayors. No, he's only targeting black mayors because Detroit is a majority African American city, but the mayor's white. I don't hear Donald Trump talk about Detroit.
Yeah.
And they went down the line of the other cities that could be targeted that actually have crime, crime issues. And so the mayors made the point to me that this is, one, not about crime. This is about control and about using black leadership as a scapegoat for his authoritarian takeover to be fomented. And some people are going to be okay and go along with that. And we're seeing it here. We saw it in L.A. And we are going to see it in Chicago.
Well, part of the thing is when you have the folks when you have the National Guard and the Marines when they were in Los Angeles, you get people used to it, right? And that's the thing. It's like people are used to it. As I'm walking around Washington, D.C. today running errands, I'm seeing them. And even I'm like, this is crazy, but also like, oh, they're here. They've been here. And I think we start to get inoculated to that fact. And that is exactly, I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong, what Trump is counting on, that the country will be inoculated against the fact that National Guardsmen, now armed with weapons, are on the streets of Washington, D.C. He sent the Marines to L.A., and he's saying he's going to do it in these other cities. And everyone seems to be fine with it. The people aren't in the streets in the way that you would think they would be.
And it's all a fake emergency because I'm not going to say crime doesn't need to come down in the District of Columbia or Chicago or other places.
No one likes crime.
No one likes crime. But
this isn't about crime
because he's not going to the places where there are crime. They're not there, and they're not trained for it. National Guard, whether or not, armed National Guardsmen to deal with vagrancy, homelessness, dealing with, street crime, they have no idea how
They were outside of Le Diplomat. Lots of crime at Le Diplomat, apparently.
Apparently somebody got to secure the escargot.
Got to get there. I do want to, because you brought up these other cities, I want to show the top 4 cities, highest homicide rates in the U.S. in 2024. Cities with highest murder rates and populations of at least 100,000. Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, St. Louis, Missouri, Memphis, Tennessee. That's according to 2024 FBI data. I don't see nobody sending anybody there.
Yeah. Well, that's because white folks don't commit crime. Okay, so that's at the end of the day. There are more of them, they don't commit crime, because that's Donald Trump's thinking, that the focus on these cities is linked to them being Democratic cities. So even within red states, you've got, a city that have a Democratic mayor.
Right.
He can't go after that city because it's in a red state.
In a red state with a Republican governor, that destroys the narrative that the Democrats have caused. Democrats didn't cause crime in St. Louis or New Orleans or Memphis. Okay, this is about, and nothing that the federal government does can help with this in its current form. These troops, again, they are not trained for it. We are asking, this is a prescription for disaster. This is a prescription for a tragedy. These guardsmen aren't trained for it. And then you have ICE. You have this situation now where they're empowering people to take to behave, not only the ICE agents, but others to behave like the ICE agents, to put masks on. And you've got cops dressing like thugs and acting like thugs. And then there are cases now where there are thugs acting like cops, acting like thugs.
Right,
okay?
right,
so
right.
nobody can tell the difference. Somebody's going to get hurt here. And this isn't about, again, this is about getting people used to it, exercising control over places where he doesn't feel he has political control, including this district.
But I want to swing real quick
capital.
to a point that I think it's important, because everything that's been said is true. And we are watching the concentric circles expand in terms of the reach that Donald Trump is trying to grab. But so here's the deal. Who's going to stop him? Who's going to stop him? The institutions haven't been able to do it. The courts haven't been able to do it. The lawyers, they just worried about their bottom line. They don't give a damn otherwise. You've got all of these folks out here who are in a position to stop this, right? But they aren't. So who stops him? Because Donald Trump operates from, he operates from the premise, I'll do it till someone stop me, but no one can stop me.
Right.
So so why are we having this conversation at this point? Whether it's D.C., Chicago, it's going to happen. Who's going to stop him? I appreciate the governor coming out and saying what he's going to say, but what's he going to do? Who's reinforcing his efforts beyond the words? And that's what Republicans and Donald Trump know right now, is that there's a limit to how far you can go and what you can do to stop him.
Yeah, and they are, they're abdicating their responsibility. If they want to really do something about crime, there are things they could do about crime in the United States of America. And we are, I'm old enough and you're old enough to remember, as when we were Republicans, we believed in federalism. We didn't believe in top-down control from the federal government